Greetings and welcome, people. You may recall in my last on-bike vlog I mentioned that as a matter of reasonable priority I wanted to replace the rear brake disc on the bike, not just because of the strange noise it was making when I was braking, as a little poem, but also because I'd noticed that the disc surface was rather worn and grooved. I think you can see that in the image in front of you there. Don't worry about what this little thing here is. It's a magnet. There's another one on the other side. We'll get to that in a minute. But just to highlight even more how worn this actual disc is, bearing in mind this is, I believe, the original disc. Oh, sorry about that, my phone, go away. This is the original disc that was on the bike from the factory in 1994. It therefore has something like 67,000 miles on it, and I've had the bike for the last 24 years and I've put the vast majority of those miles on it, and my riding style does include reasonable use of the back brake. I know a fair number of riders barely touch the back brake because it is so relatively ineffective compared to the twin discs up front, but I do use the back brake. There are times when I believe you should be using it for my own purposes. If I find I'm coming into a corner or bend a little bit quick, rather than slam on the front brakes, which will obviously cause the front end of the bike to dive and thereby change the geometry and weight distribution of the bike, I will dab the back brake until I think it's a reasonable reduction in the speed. So I'm not saying I do that a lot. I'm not saying I misjudge bends all the time, but I do use the back brake when coming to a stop at junctions and lights and things like that. I will use the back brake to finally come to a stop, and use the front brake for major braking requirements. Hopefully not panic braking, but sometimes there are emergency requirements, and obviously the back brake won't do for that. So enough waffling about how much I use and therefore wear out the back brake. Another factor in wear on the back brake disc for me is I pretty much always use metal sintered pads, H, EBC, H pads, and they do tend to be a little bit more aggressive on the disc surface than non-sintered, organic or regular pads. They may give a better feel, but they do wear out quicker. So there we go. That's a little bit of background, and you can see, as I say, the wear on the surface. I think you can see the lip there, and there's another lip there. But to highlight this even more, I'll move you in a little bit closer. So sorry if it's going to get a bit juddery. Not too much, I hope. Bring you over there. I'll put a straight edge across there. In fact, I think you can already see what's showing through underneath the edge of the straight edge, but if I highlight it even further, you can see there is quite a gap there, and it's effectively the same on the other side. Okay. Again, sorry about the juddering. Let's move you back into position. And over here, there is the data for the minimum thickness of the disc, which is 5 millimeters. So to get to these here, this side and on the other side, there are a couple of rare earth magnets that are going to help me measure the wear on this disc. I don't have a brake disc caliper or micrometer or vernier gauge or anything like that. I have a standard vernier gauge, and obviously the jaws are straight, therefore can't get into the depth of the wear area. So I'll put one of these on each side. These measure out to a fraction over 3 millimeters each. So if I measure the gap across these and take off, say 6.5 millimeters, 6 to 6.5, and we should get the thickness of the disc between them. So if and being magnetised, they're quite good at gripping on. That is now on there, so if I slide them off, and that is 10 millimeters. So the total thickness across the magnets and the disc is 10 millimeters. The magnets are a shade over 3 millimeters each. So even if you call it 6 millimeters of magnets, that's 4 millimeters of disc, which is obviously 20% below minimum thickness. Can you see that? Oh, excuse my mucky hands. Come on, focus. That's the problem with camera phones. They're a pain to focus on things. I think you can probably just about make out that is almost exactly on 10, or in fact it's a smidge under 10 millimeters. So that is well and truly, as we say over here in the UK, cream crackered disc. Cream crackered being rhyming slang for knackered, worn out, finished, kaput, scrap basically. So last Sunday I did actually, obviously you can see the old disc in front of you, therefore that must mean that I have put the new disc on the bike, which I have indeed done. I did that last Sunday. It was a reasonably dry, sunny, rather chilly day, so I thought, no, got to get on with it. I had a couple of hours on Sunday afternoon, so I thought, yeah, get on, get it done. I did think about videoing it, filming it, but then I thought to myself, well, I'm actually under something of a time constraint. I have only literally 2 hours, or just over 2 hours to get this done, and when I've had the wheel off in the past, the back wheel off in the past, I know I've had all sorts of problems getting the damn thing back on. Some people seem to have no trouble doing it. I always seem to struggle. So I thought, no, as much as I would like to record it and show it, it was going to be too much of a risk that I wouldn't get the wheel back on. I was hoping that I would be able to get out for an hour's ride after I got it back on to test out, but in my miserliness, I thought that as the existing pads had only been on the back brake for 150, 200 miles, or maybe a little bit more than that, I might be able to reuse them with the new disc. But clearly it turned out that even in that small number of miles, this surface has done its worst on what are effectively almost new pads. They've still got a lot of friction material on them, but I could tell by how the marks the old pads were leaving on the new disc that they weren't in even contact. So that meant no ride on the bike until I'd got new pads. So the pads have duly been ordered. I have them, and I think when I finish here I'm quickly going to go out and stick them in the bike, in the back brake. Obviously not going to stick them randomly anywhere on the bike, they'll need to go in the back brake. And with any luck I will be able to get out for a test run, start these things bedding in on the new disc, and hopefully get the bike ready for its MOT test in about 4 weeks' time. So I think that is it for this particular video. I think this is probably just going to be uploaded as is. Very little editing required. It is going to end up being about a 10-minute video log. So thank you all for taking a look, and wish me luck on the test ride once I've got these things fitted on the bike, and hopefully be speaking to you again in the not too distant future, maybe on the test ride later today. Cheerio for now. Bye.